Hi, I'm Marc, host and creator of Get to the Joke, a web series that is a masterclass in the art of stand-up comedy. I hope you find today's episode to be both fun and helpful, and you can help me out by subscribing to my YouTube channel and liking the video, and feel free to drop a comment. I'll be happy to get back to you. Alright, well, let's get to the joke. Hi, I'm Marc, a comedian from Philadelphia.
As you can probably imagine how much going on right now. I can tell you the most exciting thing I had going on this week was my buddy called me up. He was like, "Hey Marc, found this cat outside." So I neutered him, gave him his shots, and I rescued this cat. You want to come over and see my cat? Well, I got nothing better to do. I'll drive 45 minutes to come see this cat. Showed this guy's house, cat's not even there. I go, "Dude, where's this cat go?" He goes, "Oh, it's an outdoor cat." Outdoor cat? Let me get this straight, fella. You found a cat outside, cut its balls off, and put it right back outside. Seems like a pretty raw deal for that cat. Story has another turn. This guy has two other cats. They're both house cats. Now how's an outdoor cat feel? It's like, "Oh, outdoor cat, don't be coming in here. See all this food and air conditioning and love? That's not for you. You get right back outside, you outside cat." Now I know how Cooper Manning feels. Nobody. All right. For those who don't know, Cooper Manning is Eli and Peyton Manning's other brother. There's a reason you never heard about Cooper Manning, because nobody cares about Cooper Manning. He's an outdoor cat.
And our guest today is Buddy Harris, who I am super excited to get to talk to. Not only do I respect Buddy very much as a comedian and love getting to work with him, but he's also a best friend of mine and one of the guys that helps me run these shows that we call Sweet Sweet Comedy at area wineries around here. Buddy has definitely made his mark in the comedy scene here. He has performed probably in pretty much all the comedy clubs here in Philadelphia and probably the vast majority of comedy clubs in Pennsylvania. He's opened up for such notable comics like Mark Norman, Joe List, Dave Attell, Rachel Feinstein, many others I'm just not thinking about right now. Buddy has been very successful in comedy, and we talk a little bit about his unique way of his style of jokes and how he comes up with jokes. Probably very unique to him, but maybe very relatable to you. And on the other side of that, Buddy is very open about his background and the colorful life that he has lived, from the sadness that was surrounded his childhood to his 3 years that he did in a state prison, and then also becoming a cancer survivor. Buddy has lived a lot of life in the 40 short years on this earth, and I think it's very. I think his story is very good because he overcomes all these struggles and has a good life now, despite the kind of tumultuous life he had in the past. I think anyone who's met Buddy loves Buddy, and the question is, does Buddy love himself? There's only one way to find out, so let's get to the episode.
I'm divorced, but I found the love of my life. We've been together for 2.5 years. Thank you. She's got ADD, so she's only been present for about 6 months. That's how that works. I learned a lot with her. Like, there's certain stores I can't go to because she's got ADD, like the dollar store. It's like walking into her mind. There's just random shit everywhere. I'm confused, right? There's like one balloon floating across the ceiling. It's a Valentine's Day. There's a alone. He's got a shopping cart. I'm like, he's homeless. He brought that thing. I had someone think I thought I worked there the other day. Came up to me, asked me where the clearance section was. I was like, it's the whole fucking store. How fucked up is your life? You need a 50-cent section? I got so mad. I was like, you know what? I'm getting a store now to the dollar store. I don't want to come back here ever again. I'm going to get a store now. I found a pack of women's underwear. I went over to the registers. I just started sniffing them. Just mumbling obscenities to myself. No one gave a shit. No one batted an eye. It's the dollar store. Matter of fact, you're looking at the new assistant manager at the King of Prussia Dollar Store. Thank you. I start tomorrow.
Hey, Portal, answer. There we go. Look at you. Tie-dye 2 days in a row.
It's the same shirt.
I was like, oh no, Buddy's old enough now that he's wearing nothing but Jimmy Buffett clothing all the time now.
I wore like a Grateful Dead shirt the other day, and people were like, "Yeah, you love the Dead." I was like, "It matched my sneakers." I don't know.
First of all, how have you been doing with coronavirus and everything else? You guys staying safe over there in the Buddy household?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We probably already all had it for a while.
Are your kids with you right now?
No, not today. But
Okay.
we're leaving for Virginia Beach tomorrow morning.
Ooh, that sounds cool.
But we didn't have. We're going to get.
So wait, is your restaurant shut down then, or do you have someone else like kind of running it?
No, we got. We have just the staff running it. For the
Oh,
next.
that's cool. You see, I'm wearing it for the interview. Wearing my.
So I was, you know what? I had one on, an old school one, so it looked like it would be like it looked like a security shirt. So I was like, I'm gonna change real quick. Put this back on.
Oh man, no. I want to figure out with you when this fascination with stand-up comedy started. You know, people are casual about comedy, might listen to a joke here or there. But when were you like all in on comedy? Do you know who you were listening to and that kind of stuff?
So, yeah, I remember watching as a kid. So I was always fascinated with like people that could like take over a room. Like I have an uncle. Like we would get together at my grandmom's every Friday night, and it was a big family. Everyone would just kind of pile in throughout the night. People would just show up. Everyone hangs out in the kitchen smoking cigarettes all night. It was perfect for a kid. Great environment for me. But my uncle, whenever the minute I'd hear him walking up the steps to come into the apartment, and I knew it was him, I was like, oh, the show's about to start, because he was always just like electric, like, and he just loved busting balls. Like he was so good at it. He just would like rock the room. It would just bust everyone's balls the minute he got there, and it would stop the minute he left. So I was always obsessed with that. And then from like a young age, because I was like bullied and kind of like nerdy and kind of like misplaced a little bit. And I was like, you know, like young, like 5, 6, 7 years old. So I watched him do this, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And then I probably like 10, 11 years old, I remember like watching stand up on like HBO and with my dad. And even though the joke would be inappropriate, and I could tell he was trying not to laugh, I could hear him like doing that snort laugh, like under, like trying to hold it in. And I was like, oh, this is powerful. This is pretty cool. I became like more and more obsessed. I would go over to my grandma's as I got older and watch like Def Comedy Jam, because like we wouldn't watch it at my house, but my grandma was deaf and blind at that point. So we put it over there. And then, you know, it just kept progressing. Like I was like more and more obsessed with it.
And there's that heartwarming story that you have where you do comedy for the first time based on a bet with your daughter. She does if she sings for a talent show, she's shy about you do comedy. I feel like that story is a little bit of a cop out because I feel like nothing was stopping you from doing comedy, but I felt like you needed to have other people give permission for you to do it. I feel like nothing was stopping you from doing comedy before, but that you needed that kind of kid buy-in or whatever it was at the time for you to be okay with yourself doing it.
Yeah, it was like kind of like I would have probably just kept pushing the rest of my life, like, I'll never try it. But I needed some kind of an excuse to, like, force myself to do it. It's like someone that's, like, gonna, like, go skydiving and, like, the pilot pretends like the plane is, like, out of gas or whatever, and they have to jump. Like, I needed to make myself feel like I had to jump to do it.
Okay.
So she was the reason, but, you know, I would have just been obsessed with it forever and probably drove myself crazy.
Yeah, and, you know, I think if someone were to ask me...
I've been happier, too.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did do it. I'm glad that all happened. I was thinking about this for a while, and I want to see if you think this is an accurate answer. If someone asked me, who is Buddy Harris? I would say he's a combination of three different things. One of them is Buddy Harris, the father, which that's probably the most important thing to you, is being a good dad, being supportive, being the strong presence in your daughter's life. That, in your head, you know that's the right thing, and that's the most important thing to you. That's one part of you. The second part is Buddy Harris needs a purpose in life, and this component involves being a comedian, pretty much quitting your job, starting a business with your fiance, getting a divorce. Like, you're not going to settle anymore. It's you need to do things that you think that will make you happy, that people will remember you from, that there's some kind of fulfillment that you need out of life. That's the second part. And then the third part is Buddy Harris, the guy with the demons. And this is the Buddy that will sabotage himself. He'll do things to put himself in situations that he knows aren't a good thing, but he doesn't think he deserves good stuff in life. So wherever these three parts Venn diagram and overlap, that's Buddy Harris. Is that an accurate description?
Yeah, that's actually pretty good. Yeah, I would say, like, it's weird. My one friend told me this before. He's like, I love being your friend because it feels like we're in, like, a car and you're just cruising and you got us all and you want to make sure we're all safe and we're having a good trip and we're enjoying the car ride, but at any minute you could just swing the car into the guardrail.
It's like, it's pretty good analogy.
You know, for the most part, it's like I always have, like, that weird devil on my shoulder that's like, turn the car now, do it now, get the car now. But I know the rest of me is like, well, to be happy, like, and that's where I think the purpose part comes in. I used to tell people, like, so when I used to do sales, and I love that, but, like, you're right, I didn't feel like I was selling oil for an oil distributor, and it was great and lucrative as it was for my family. I used to always struggle because I'm like, what am I getting from this? Like, from, like, you know, for the good of life. Mm-hmm. So, but one thing I used to do is I used to have an app. It was a Microsoft Streets and Trips app, and I used to go on the night before and detail out my day. Like, I would be like, I'm going to these 10 places. I'm going to be there for 20 minutes at this one, 45 at this one. I'm probably going to stop at this Wawa in between the two. And I would map it all out. And, like, sometimes, like, people would see that and they're like, why do you map it out so detailed? And I'm like, because if I don't, I'll end up at the mall just wandering around. Like, what's the fuck am I doing with that? Like, I need some structure in my life, or you know, I can let the other shit get in my head and then I start to, you know. So
that's a good way of saying it. I think I like that.
Yeah, which is funny because, like, for, you know, when I found that I was going to be a dad for the first time, it was like the day I found out, my ex and I were like already, we had some issues before we had kids. And we were like kind of mended it. But then she found out she was pregnant, and she was like pretty upset because she thought it was she didn't know how I was gonna react, because like I was kind of all over the place at the moment. Like I was like, I want to move to the city. I want to do this. I want to do that. She found out she was pregnant, and I was like, wow, I got clarity all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I'm a dad. That's what I am. I don't need the city. I don't need this. But then, it gets to a point where, like, at least for me, like, once I have the kids and I'm like, all right, I'm a dad, but what am I going to show them or leave for them? Kind of like the same thing, like, with you trying to record, an album, it's like, what am I showing? Like, it's my purpose. Like, what am I leaving behind to them? And then that's when some of this other stuff falls in, like the purpose and all that. It's like, I should be living, the life that I'm proud of if I want them to understand the same thing.
Yeah. Okay, so I do want to talk about each of those three things. Let's talk about you being a father, because I know you pretty well, and I don't know you pretty well. I probably know you halfway, I would say, or whatever that comes out to. But I do know that there's this sacredness of you being a father, that it is important that you are a good father, that you will do things for your daughters that maybe are above and beyond to keep them safe. And I don't want to go down too much in the weeds, but instances where there could be conflicts among different people in the family, and you want to make sure they're protected, even if it means that you'll fall short somehow. Does that translate to your childhood? And the reason I ask that is because you don't mention too much at all about your parents. It's not lost on me that you are the third Harold Schoen. However, you go by a totally different name. You don't even share anything in common with your father. All the shows you and I have done together, your parents have never come I think your mom came to one show in the 5 years you've been doing comedy. I don't know how many shows I haven't been on with you and that she's been there. Was there not a good, what was your relationship like with your parents? And is that why you have now almost 180'd into the way you are a father now?
Well, first, they only come to shows that you're not a part of.
I don't blame them.
No, you know what? Yeah. So when I was a kid, it's weird. It's weird throughout my life. Like, for whatever reason, I've blocked out, like, not necessarily blocked out, but I just kind of keep moving forward, and then I kind of forget the past. Like, but I remember as a child, I always felt like really like alone. I was like a very lonely child, and I remember like in kindergarten we used to do. I went to like I went to like a charter kindergarten. It wasn't part of the public school district yet. So I went to charter. So it was because it was all day. Like I think the kindergarten in public school was a half day. My parents both worked. My mom was she was in a weird spot when I was that age. She suffered from like depression and bipolar. So like back then, it hit her, I think, harder. That like she like somehow just like learned to cope with it. But like I don't remember this, but like there was a time like I came home from playing outside. It was just my mom, and she was like unconscious on the kitchen floor. I had to call my aunt, and I really don't even remember that. Like I don't remember specific details. Just overall, like I just remember being lonely. I remember being at the charter kindergarten all day. We'd be doing nap time, and I would sit there and cry during nap time because I was like, I don't think my parents are picking me up today for whatever reason. I don't know why I felt that way.
Wow.
It's just,
yeah.
I always had kind of a crazy imagination. Like I remember being a kid and late at night, I would like stay up and I'm like, someone's going to murder my family tonight. Like, and it didn't help that I would watch like crazy movies and stuff. And then, but I would take that and like internalize it. And I'm like, this is going to happen to us. So, yeah, so I had a lot of that. My dad, he's not very like so I am the third. My grandfather, still alive, 90 years old, but he was like a really stern, just a short, stern German man growing up. And then my dad didn't fall far from the tree. Like he kind of still had the same. He was a little calmer than my grandfather from stories I knew, but he was still pretty strict and pretty stern. And then my mom was kind of like her background, like her childhood, the way she grew up was kind of like free for all. Like her mom was divorced, hung out at the bar a lot. She just kind of was off on her own doing her thing. Kind of kept a straight head, never got in any trouble. But so the two of them combined, I feel like I picked up a little bit of both their personalities. Maybe not even the best two. Crazy, but.
If your mom was suffering from depression did you feel, is that kind of where you being funny may have started? Because you may have recognized that you were a funny kid, but were you using it to keep her entertained and keep her lighthearted? Or maybe even with your dad, if he was too strict, maybe he would like come down hard on you, but if you were funny, maybe he would be less harsh on you if you somehow entertained him, because he was watching comedy, you said back then.
Yeah, I'll be honest though. You know what? I don't remember like ever really making my dad laugh. Like when I was little. I remember like when we watched like a show or like we watched Cheers and I'd hear him laugh and I'm like, because I never did and because he was kind of a stern guy. I was like, this is powerful. Like the fact that they can do that is powerful. Like I want to be able to do that. So there was kind of an obsession behind that. I don't know when I started trying to like pick up being funny. Like I would be a clown, and it was kind of like my defense mechanism with the kids in the neighborhood and stuff. I would I would kind of get bullied, so I was like, well, if I can just kind of get them to laugh with me, maybe they won't beat the shit out of me today, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, kind of what I'm hearing is that you struggled with relating to your father. These guys on TV are making your father laugh. You want that relationship with him, but he isn't giving it to you. And so how much has your dad ever seen you do comedy?
Yeah.
How long has it been since he's seen you?
Actually, it's kind of cool now because he, when I finally started doing comedy, I didn't tell my dad's side of the family for a while. Matter of fact, I called my dad one day, went over there, and sat him and my stepmom down, and I was like, just wanted to let you guys know I'm going through a divorce. And they're like, wow, what? We didn't know. Oh my God. And then we talked that out for like an hour, and I was like, why I'm here? I also do stand-up comedy now. And they were like, what? Like they were almost like more like, what the fuck? Why? And then, but then like, and my dad didn't come to see me even after I told him for a while. And I remember like we were at some kind of party and my mom had been to see me. And so my dad asked my mom at this party, and I overheard it. He goes, so Buddy does comedy, huh? So have you been to see him? And she was like, yeah. And he goes, well, and she was like, he's a little dirty. It's like I guess he asked her. And I was actually, to her credit, I was dirtier. I had a couple dirty jokes then, more so than I do now. They were like definitely playing with the line a little bit. So my dad goes, well, I don't think I can go see him then. I don't want to be embarrassed.
Wow.
And I heard that and I was like, all right, I mean, deal. I guess maybe he won't ever come see me. And then time went by and I kept doing it, and his friends found out and wanted to come see me. So they all came out to see me, had a good time. Now he's been to a couple shows, but he like I'll post shit on Facebook. I didn't even Facebook friend my dad for a long time. And we became Facebook friends, and then he started like liking and laughing at my shit I put on Facebook, and now like he'll like brag about it a little bit, like, you know, like I'll talk to him on the phone now and I'll tell him a story and he'll like chuckle and he'll be like when before COVID, we'd get together with family and he'd be like, tell that story you told me. And it's not a part of the act, it's just some dumb thing like with the kid or whatever. But so it has, I mean, comedy has changed our relationship for sure.
For the better.
Plus I'm older, you know, like, I mean, I feel like that whole thing changes as you get older. Like, I'm older, so he is kind of recognized at times where he might have fell short as a dad when I was growing up, and then you know, and then also I recognize why he did some of the things that he did as a man now, you know. So, but yeah, I do try to take like with my kids, I emphasize I feel like I have I feel like I've always had a lot of empathy. Like if I give myself time, I guess, you know. So like I empathize a lot with them as kids. Like I get it sometimes. Like I'm like, I don't ever want them to have that lonely feeling because I know how that feels. So, you know, like my daughter had softball this morning, and she's been struggling with batting. So she told me, like, she's like, Dad, I don't really know if I like playing anymore. I've been struggling with batting. So last week I got there an hour before the game. The game was at 9. I got there at 7:30. I got to my ex's and grabbed her, and we went and hit some balls out in the field. This morning, I forgot she had a game today. I was out till almost 2:30.
Yeah.
I went to bed around 3, and I woke up this morning at like 7:15 in a panic. Like, I forgot she's got a game today. And I just imagined her like waiting there being like, what the fuck? Where's my dad? He's not going to bat me today? So I rushed over there. I felt like crap. I couldn't wait to come home and take a nap. But like, yeah, that whole idea of just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just feeling like,
it's important. You wish your dad and your mom were just there for you. They were never there for you. So it's important for you to be there for your 3 daughters. Yeah.
Like my dad, so both of them, like my dad's got like these quiet strengths that like I've grown to like learn and understand and appreciate and love like over time that I didn't notice as a kid. I'm like, I get how his inner workings are now a little better, you know? And then my mom, same thing, but like there's been moments of like these strengths in my mom that I've seen like over the years that have like maybe changed my respect for her. Not that I didn't respect her, but it's like, you know, when you have like an adult, when you're growing up and you're a kid, and she like, it used to always be like, when's kind of like the next storm coming with her? Like, you know, we're good today, but is tomorrow the day that everything just blows up in the house and shit's not cool for a couple days? Like that uneasy wave, you know? Yeah. So she's learned how to kind of figure that out on her own over the years, and maybe it's just because she doesn't have to deal with me and my brother anymore being in that house.
Yeah. I mean, do you have to be careful with your daughters visiting your mom? Like, are you always there to just make sure nothing crazy happens?
No.
Okay.
No, she's like super like, I mean, she's cool now. So
okay.
I don't have to worry about that type of stuff. She's real good with the kids. My dad's real good with the kids.
Good. So I guess kind of what I'm getting from your childhood then, so this would be from birth to 18, is you first thing you said, you're very lonely, you don't relate well to your father, he's hard on you, or he's just not there. Your mom, you're more the parent in the mom your situation, making sure she's okay, making sure she's being taken up, you know, no matter how old you were at the time. You were kind of outcasted in school, and then you graduate high school. Now, do you go to community college right away, or do you take a break before you go?
Yeah, no, I went to community college.
And you don't complete community college. You No. Okay, so now this does this correspond to the The prison sentence, is that why you don't finish, or is it just you don't care about school? It never something
Yeah,
school never.
I didn't like school. You know what? So in high school, I didn't mind it because I was kind of like a class clown. I got to goof off.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of knew everyone over the time, like over the years, right?
Oh, so you were a class clown. You were okay. You weren't a quiet
I-
kid. Oh, in high
But
school. Okay.
like when I became like a teenager, my parents got a divorce when I was 12, and then I started just kind of finding my own way a little. So like in like those years, like I became a huge comedy fan. Like on Friday nights, my best friend and I, we'd go to like West Coast Video, and he'd be like, let's get the newest, Die Hard movie or whatever. And I'm like, no, let's go rent Andrew Dice Clay or, Eddie Murphy or whatever was kind of out. Like I would like be like, hey, come over and listen to Sam Kinison. And he'd be like, Jesus, dude, like, can't we, isn't there anything else? So I started to kind of fall into that line, and I loved the, like, I didn't feel lonely with the tension, even though it was kind of negative. So like in school and stuff, I just started fucking around more. There were times actually like, and I used to try to hide behind the fact that like, I went through a period where I smoked weed and I was young, like 13, 14, 15. And then I stopped, because I just was like, I don't really want, like, I don't know why. I just was like, you know what? I was smoking a lot of weed. I'm like, I'm young. I should be out on my bike. What am I doing? So I stopped, and then but I would still go to school sometimes. And when I felt uncomfortable, I would pretend like I smoked weed that morning and pretend I was high, because I was like, well, if I say or do anything stupid, I just be like, I was high. Sorry. Even though I wasn't.
Yeah.
So, but I just kind of like leaned towards being a class clown, pissing off my teachers.
When your parents got divorced, was it 50-50 stay, or were you with your mom or dad a lot more than the other?
I was with my mom and my stepdad every week, and then 3 weekends out of the month I was with my dad.
Okay, and your stepdad...
So I went from like an environment with my mom where, by that time, my mom would be like, you have to be home by 9. And I'd be like, I'll be home at 10. Like, there wasn't, like, she would try to punish me. My stepdad was pretty loose. He didn't want to overstep his boundaries, so he kind of just played like a quiet saint to some degree, because it's like, I don't know how he went with my bullshit, but it's like his house, and I'm walking around like a 16-year-old punk, like, I'm the man in this house. I'm not coming home at curfew. Fuck you.
Was your brother also there? Were your brother split up?
Yeah, my brother and I. My brother and I was like super close during that time. But he was 8 years apart. So.
Oh really? I didn't realize that big of a age difference.
8 years apart, 7 years apart. Yeah.
And he's younger, correct?
So, yeah.
High school, is there a correlation between your parents getting divorced and you acting out and rebelling for attention?
Yeah, well, you know what? Yeah, there is a correlation. It was probably because I had the freedom to do it then. Like, you ever see like kids that like, they're like straight A students, they're like, they live every day to the T, and then they go off to college and they become total fuck ups. Like, they're out of control, wild, partying. I got a taste of that earlier because, I had a strict life and regimen, and then my parents got a divorce, and I was under the supervision of my mom, who was way less strict on her own, and my stepdad, who didn't want to overstep his boundaries, so I saw that and abused it instantly. And so like at 12, I was like, oh, I have freedom? What can I get away with? And so I kept pushing the boundaries a lot then. And then once I kind of got like comfortable and used to it by like 14, 15, 16, like after a couple years of it, I was like, all right, I need to kind of rein myself back into a
So
degree.
so no one else was telling you to rein it in. You recognized it in yourself that you need to
I'm
rein
sure
it in.
like, they were telling me to
Yeah.
rein it in, but
Yeah.
but it was like me overall. Like it was like you said, I still had that little bit of that diagram then, where it was like, all right, I need to find my path, and like doing like all this, goofing off in school, skipping classes or smoking weed before the bus picks me up. This isn't going to get me on the right path. I need to figure out like what I want my path to be.
Okay.
I always wanted like, I used to always secretly crave like that teacher that would be like, I see something special in you. Let me take you under my wing.
Did you ever have that? Have you ever had that in your life?
No, I found it later on in life. So let's go back to college for a second. So with college, I did not like going to college and being like, okay, I don't want to be a class clown anymore because I'm in community college. Like we're all kind of class clowns, what? Like this is community college. Like I'm paying to be here. I shouldn't be a clown. Like no one appreciates that. I'm just fucking up everyone's time. But I also didn't know how to be serious either. Like I was like, I started getting to the point where it's like because I always had like public anxiety. Like I would go to the mall and I'd get the sweats being around that many people. Like it would just, so like it started getting to the point where like I'd show up at school at community college.
Joey.
Even if I don't have practice. I would show up to community college. I'd drive there. I'd pull up. I'd start walking up to class, and I would get so nervous I would almost shit my pants. And I'd go use the bathroom, and then say, "Well, I'm late to class now. I'm just going to go home for the rest of the day." And I had a pretty decent job at the time, working as a mechanic.
Okay.
So I was already making semi-decent money at the time, and I was like, "Well, I don't need community college. It makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't like it."
All right, so I mean, we all right. So you've been touching. I've been trying to find the right way to do this, and you've touched around it. So let's get into it now. I got to treat this with sensitivity, but let's talk about how significant is the date February 6, 2002 in your life.
It's significant. So when I chart out my life, there's like, there's pre that date and then post that date. There's like that timeline is like, in a weird way, like I'm not really a religious person or whatever, but in a weird way, that was a date that I became kind of reborn, just with stronger philosophical beliefs, hunger, whatever. But so I'll get into it.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't want to stop you. I don't want you to have to retell the story because I found the article online. It still exists out there. Is that kind of why you go by Buddy Harris in your comedy and stuff like that, to separate? Are these two different lives that you're trying? There's the before February 6th Harold Schoen and the post February 6th Buddy Harris.
Partly, and so it makes me feel like I feel more comfortable.
Okay.
Like I've always wanted to shed, which is unfair. It's like I almost feel guilty wanting to do that sometimes, but so Buddy was always my nickname. Like that was given to me before I was born, so I always had that. So when I first started doing comedy, I tried to keep my last name, and then there was a lot of things that kind of pointed me to like I just wanted to shed all of that. It's weird sometimes now. Like I just rather like I've thought about before. I'm like I just would like to just become like Buddy Harris, consistently drop everything else,
just legally change your name to Buddy Harris.
Yeah. And just move forward as that. And a lot of it has to do with that. So on that day, I was out drinking, and my cousin was with me, and I was driving. We were at a bar. We left there, and I decided to drive. And on the way home, I crashed my car into a tree, and he passed away because of it. So that's saying it the most, sensitive way possible. But I mean, when you dig down to it, I because of my actions, I killed my cousin. And because of that, I had to do 3 years in prison, which was, I mean, like when I look back at it now, like that was, that's it's really not a lot of time. That time almost saved me to a whole other level because, after the car accident, the guilt that I had and the pain and just like the idea of like having to try to move forward somehow was tough. So when I went to prison, it was actually kind of a chance for me to be like, all right, I gotta figure this out. I gotta figure out who I am, which was kind of a search that I've had, my whole life. It was this whole search where I'm like, who am I? What's my path? What am I going to be? It was like, it's always something that just churns in my mind. Like, what is happening? Who am I? What am I going to be? And then all of a sudden, it's like, this happens. And I was like, I shouldn't even be alive. Why am I alive? Why do I even have a path? And then I go to prison and I go, okay, I have to do this. This is my deserved punishment. I need to at least get through this. So while I'm here, I should become the best version of me possible. For a little bit afterwards, I didn't go to prison for like a year after the car accident. And I told myself, you know what? I should be the best version of my cousin. I should become him. I should take all his attributes and become who he was. Because he, growing up, was all the things. He was like an idol of mine because we were the same age, but he was all the things that I really wasn't. Like, I was very fearful. I was very like I wasn't very, like, not that most kids are, but I wasn't very worldly. Like, I didn't really I just kind of knew my little piece of the pie. I didn't really venture out. I was nervous, scared. His dad was the one that would light up a house at a party.
What side of the family? Dad or mom's side? Cousin?
My mom's side.
Mom's side.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's important to note because I read the article and I think the DA makes a quote in the article and it goes, "This is a tragedy through and through." It says Mr. Schoen is severely injured from the train wreck. He killed his cousin, and that was his best friend. And so, like, it's not just it's not just your cousin, but it meant like this was also your best friend as well.
Yeah, we were very close.
And I think your story is commendable because so many people would get racked with the guilt and go down a spiral of maybe drugs and alcohol, where you kind of set your life got a whole lot better after prison. So you didn't spiral down this rabbit hole of just feeling sorry for yourself and there's, how am I going to face my family and all this? Just like you mentioned, you kind of was like, well, I'm going to live the life that my cousin wanted to live. And so there is it's an accident. It wasn't premeditated. But I guess let me ask you, because the article, I mean, you, like you said, you were severely injured in the accident. I mean, I think I saw like you had broken hip, broken leg, broken elbow, broken feet. How long did it take for you to understand the magnitude of what just happened? I mean, like because I'm sure you were knocked unconscious when you hit the tree. So how long did it take you to understand the whole story of what unfolded?
So I was conscious. I remember being tumbled from the car. I was like ejected from the car. I remember I remember the whole tumbling. I remember I went to stand up and I felt my hip just pop even worse. And so I leaned on my other leg and I felt my leg just snap in half. And so I just laid there, and I was yelling out to my cousin, and I didn't hear from him, and so I didn't really know what to do, and a car happened to be driving. It was a trooper happened to be driving by, saw the accident, gets out, calls 911. They get me a helicopter. As I'm being transported into the helicopter, I asked them what happened, how was my cousin, and they said he's fine. They got him in the ambulance. You got to worry about you right now. You're in a helicopter, and that's the last thing I remember. That's when I just kind of zonked out, and then I woke up in the hospital, and they wanted to put me in surgery right away. So
were these life-threatening? Did you have internal bleeding? Were they worried about that you needed surgery that you could bleed out or something?
Yeah, I was just banged up. I got nothing with my head.
I mean, you could have died. You could have died yourself. How lucky you were to survive that alone. You yourself could have died from this accident.
Yeah. For a long time, I was like, I never wanted to see pictures of the car or anything because I couldn't really handle it. But when I finally did, it was like a weird closure to a degree, because I was like, oh, I shouldn't have lived. It turned into like, why did I live, to like, I shouldn't have. I just saw it and I was like, I shouldn't have. I don't know why I did, but shouldn't have.
Now, if you could think back that far, because it's been 18 years now at this point, was it how did I survive, or were you in such a state where you were like, I should have died in that car accident?
Oh no, I was definitely in a state of I should have died. There was a time so after it happened, so honestly, I don't know. It's weird. I don't know that I ever really grasped the severity of it as a whole, because what I did is I kept breaking everything out and compartmentalizing. It's like I had the guilt and the sadness and the anger and frustration and everything that was involved with the fact that my cousin was dead, and the mourning and the grief, and so I had that, and then I had the part where I was banged up and I have to rehab and I have to get myself physically better. And then there was the other part that was like, okay, I'm going to go to jail at some point. That part really never quite hit me that hard. I didn't really grasp that part. It was the other two compartments that I was having a real hard time, obviously, with my cousin. I was having a real hard time with that. So I tried to focus on the physical part because I could at least kind of control that, I felt like. So I focused on that, kind of dealt with that, just ignored the jail part almost altogether. I was like, it is what it is. Just, it's out of my control. It is what it is. But then, so when I went away, I go, okay, well, this gives me a chance. This still kind of is what it is. But it gives me a chance to really dissect what I did, how I feel, and how I can, make it a positive, get better from it. And all I did is I worked out and read books. I just constantly.
You were lonely again. So the first time in 10 years since you were a little kid, you were back to being a lonely outcast again.
Yeah, back to being a loner, but it did me well at that point because it was like.
Well,
kind of circled back to an environment that I kind of understood, because I was kind of mentally, I kind of understood it. I was like, okay, here I am again. It was something that I kind of feared, but.
You're only, at this point, you're only 21 years old. Did they, you already touched on 3 things that were killing you mentally. the grief of having killed your own cousin, your body, not knowing whether you should die, but your body is now, you're almost an invalid at this point. You're going into prison in an environment you've never been in before. And on top of that, your own family sues you over a wrongful death law. So your own family is now attacking you because of, I saw that there's their liability claim against you because of it, so your own family is now, yeah. So, but I mean, so you have this, but did you have any therapy? Was there anyone that was on your side to be like, this, how did you not have a mental breakdown? How did you not go into a mental regression and go down a weird road because of all this stress that no human being has been in that situation, or very little of them?
I did at one point. You know what? It was like I got to a point where, like, afterwards, because there was about a year's period between when the accident happened and I went to prison, and so there was a weird period then where I was like, you know what, where I definitely became like, I felt suicidal. I was like, I don't deserve to be here. This isn't right. It's like, and I think honestly, the thing that kept me kind of grounded was the same thing that was making me break down, which is the guilt. Because as guilty as I felt that I was like, I don't deserve to be here, and I don't want to be here. Like, I don't deserve this. I don't want to be here. The flip side to that is also the guilt, which was I can't take the easy way out. I'm still here. I need to face this. Like, I have to deal with this. I can't quit. That's not fair. That's, so, it's weird. I always still think like I'm waiting for that other, ever since that day, I've always thought that like I've just kind of lived on borrowed time. Like when people were like, "Oh, you're 40," I think, well, I'm just 19 years overdue.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just, so like I don't know. But yeah, I would trade all that. And I just feel like, who knows what would have happened in my life. I mean, as sad as I mean it in like hopefully like an honoring way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, that moment of time had a significant impact in that forced it to be a positive way eventually.
Yeah.
Because I needed something to like eye awakening, and that clearly was eye awakening.
Okay.
And then I carried him with me on my shoulder in everything I do. So, I mean, it just gave me a lot of determination, and maybe I may not have found another way, but.
Well, what's your relationship with your cousin's family now?
I don't have one. Which, it's such a weird thing because I'm now so more than ever. I mean, now that I have kids, like I always got it. I've seen them a few times, like when my grandmother passed away, and all I could do is cry in front of them. It just.
But do they understand that? Like I said, do they understand that you never meant to hurt their kid? This wasn't something that you had. That this was.
Yeah.
This was. You put him in a weird situation, but if he had buckled his seatbelt, he would have lived. You never. Had he done a few things or whatever, just said no to getting in the car. Like, do they understand that part of it?
I don't know. Because I don't know.
I'm not saying that's right. I'm saying, do they understand that part?
Huh?
I'm asking, do they understand that? Had they forgiven you? Have you guys sat down and been like, buddy, I know it was weird there for a year or whatever, but we don't hold.
No, I think they've forgiven me over time in their own way, and for them to help with whether or not they necessarily wanted to do it because of me. You probably would get it now more than ever too. Now that you're a parent, as a parent, it's like it would be hard to look past any of that other stuff, and it's hard for me. Like I've had a lot of people over the years, obviously, like the people that are close to me say, "Could have happened to anyone. Could have done this," and I'm like, "Well, it didn't because I was the one driving." Like it was so. And I think it would be hard for me as a parent to look and see past any of that other than just have the anger. But I think over time, just for their mourning purposes, I think they were able to forgive me in their own way.
Okay.
Just, which I could only hope for them for their mourning purposes. Because the idea of being forgiven for something, even though it wasn't intentional, it's still such a hard thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I understand.
I don't want to dwell too much, but I did want to put that in there because I feel like this experience, the 3 years you did in prison, and again, you had to be a fish out of water situation because here you are, it was a bad accident, but now you're being surrounded by most people with mental illness, people with severe criminal mental illness surrounding you constantly, and the fact that you weren't fearful the entire time you were in there is also. I know you said you were working out and stuff, but still, I mean.
This guy wasn't fearful.
Well, I mean, so now, I might go back and forth with the prison thing because I am curious to see if you use humor in prison to diffuse craziness.
Also, I don't mind talking.
But I want to get to the meat of what this is about, which is your joke writing style. I think it's important to understand who you are, and I don't mind going back and forth because it is a powerful story, and it's as I've been doing these things with these comics, most of them have very sad backgrounds. Very sad backgrounds. I now want to translate into your now that you're a comedian. And like I said before, the amount of output, I mean, I think maybe about the comics I've done, you're the least tenured at 5 years. You might be the least tenured comic that I've talked to now, because now you're headlining B rooms, you're featuring in the bigger clubs around the area. I mean, you just got done doing Rachel Feinstein's show. That doesn't happen by accident. I mean, you're a funny guy. Even when I talk to you on the phone for maybe 5 minutes, I don't think you ever can turn it off. I think you're incapable of turning off being funny or being charming or just wanting to be liked. And this might have to go back to your childhood where you need people to appreciate you. Can you tell me a little bit about how you come up with a joke? And we could talk about the first one I want to talk about is one of my favorites is the fork in the socket joke.
That's not even true. I just gotta fight back. I got 3 daughters. It's difficult. Girls are mean. Right? Boys are stupid, but girls are mean. Right? Like a boy will take a fork and put it in an electrical outlet. That is a boy move. But a girl will wet that fork, give it to her brother to put into the electrical outlet. I can't even mess with them. I'm divorced, right? My youngest daughter walked by the other day. I was like, boop, daddy got your nose. That was a cute, adorable game. She laughed, she walked back over, she's like, boop, mommy got your house. I was like, yeah. That's where we're going with this?
Where did that joke, is that a real thing? Like, tell me how that seed was planted in your head that this was a funny something.
So I started with that, like I wanted to make a comparison because I think so a lot of times the way I'll do some kind of bit is where I'll come up with something funny, like that I think is funny, that would be like the punch, right? And then I'll kind of like have to try to work backwards from that.
Okay.
Because so rewinding, like I've always like as a 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old, 21-year-old, disappear for a while. I come home 27, 28, 29, 30, more so when I get to like my 30s, because I start feeling more comfortable in society again. I figured out how to craft stories when I'm telling them at a dinner party or like with a couple of my buddies, and I'm like, you'll never fucking guess what happened, right? And it's like something like that. And I've like kind of mapped out, like even doing them, like all this time I studied the energy output at different times, like when to be energetic, when to pull back, the timing. So I had some of that figured out, but then like when you get on stage, it's a different animal. You can't go up and just be like, never fucking guess what happened the other day. But it's a different thing. You need the punches to get the attention and blah, blah, blah. So I always thought like, you know what, I'm not bad at putting the story together. The thing that I need to concentrate on is the punches. So I would find a nice gem that I would think is a gem. Like, so for that bit, the gem actually started after that, which is where I'm like, boop, daddy got your nose. And then my daughter goes, boop, mommy kept your house.
Does it just pop in your head? Just as like a mystic? It just popped in your... Or was that something somebody said? Or is that for real? Did your daughter actually say that to you?
No, she didn't say that to me. I probably did like, boop, daddy got your nose, and she did something kind of dickheadish back to me. And I was like, these fucking people are so disrespectful. And then I thought she might as well have been like, boop, mommy got your house. And when I did that, I was like, that's kind of funny.
Do you write that down, or does that just stay in your head? Or you want to feel like it can just rat around your head till you get on stage, and you just do it 100 times?
Sometimes I'll jot it down.
How do you jot it down? Are you in your phone? Are you writing it down?
Well, because I'm not real great at that. That's probably the sabotage part. But I'll jot down something like that, or I'll just, if I really, really like it, I'll just grab it, and it's in my head, and I will obsess over it like all day long. Like I'll be doing something, I'll be making something to eat, and I'm like, boop, mommy got your nose. Boop, mommy kept your house. Boop, what? Well, how do I lead up to that? What do I say beforehand? Like, girls are mean. That's the whole point of this. Girls are mean. Well, yeah, but girls can't just be mean. Now I'm just picking on females. Like, boys are something too. Boys are fucking stupid. And then I built back and I go, well, all right, yeah, so girls are mean, boys are stupid. It's easy just to say that. But like, what's a cool analogy? Like, what's something stupid about a boy? Like, boys are always like, inquisitive, like not in a mental way, in more of a physical way. Like, boys are like physically just always curious. Like, well, what happens if I break that? Or what happens if I do that? What happens if I put a fork in the electrical outlet? Where I feel like females are more inquisitive on an emotional level. So it's like, I came up with like the sticking a fork in the outlet, and I was like, well, what could I use as an analogy where like the boy does something stupid, but the girl turns it into a really fucked up mean thing. Like, well, what if she wet the fork? And then so I just kind of built backwards so I could get to what I thought was the main punchline was the boop, mommy kept the house.
So that joke. So what you pretty much did is you create this genius bit out of thin air. I mean, there's a situation that exists over here with some interaction with you and your daughter, and then maybe like a few little droplets come over here, and just from one little droplet, you create a whole fantasy situation, but it can be real. I mean, it's very relatable and it's very realistic. Is that how most of your jokes are? Or most of your jokes made up, but they're so well written that they're just so relatable that everyone will believe that this actually happened to you?
So it's I read somewhere before, it's like every great story comes from a droplet of truth, and then it's just like pizza bread. You just,
Yeah.
you keep molding it and molding it and molding it. It's like, like that great storyteller at the bar, which I've always loved, like the storytellers, right? So the great storyteller at the bar where everyone's got a crowd around them. The first time he told that story, it was really like, you'll never get what's fucking happened on Friday. And then from there, it's like, that's where the truth part comes in. Like, saw a guy with his dick out on the sidewalk. And then it's like, all right, people like heard that and they're like, all right, story's over. And then so he tells it again the next time, but adds a little bit to the story. And then like, it's like whisper down the lane. It's like, if I tell you the story, you want to make it more interesting than the next person. By the time it gets 20 people deep, the story's not even the same anymore, except for maybe a piece of the truth.
Yeah.
So I'm basically just playing whisper down the lane in my own head. So
you're obsessing over this joke. I mean, and if I know you, and you have over an hour of material at this point, how much of your day are you talking to yourself about comedy and doing jokes? And are people aware that it's like your fiance and your kids like, buddy or daddy's doing a joke right now, just let him ramble at the kitchen sink for 20? Is that what happens like all day for you?
Yeah, that happens a lot. Like I'll be driving and I'll look over, like my daughter will be looking at me and she's like, you're doing a joke in your head right now, aren't you? And I'm like, kind of. I'm working something out.
It's crazy to me that all this is happening in your head. I mean, by the fact that how many times in your own head you are constantly rewriting your own joke. You have this notebook. I mean, is it the same notebook you've had for 5 years, or
Yeah.
So you're barely writing in this notebook. Outside of you just being a savant, how are you able to remember the timing of the punchline and the way to word it? Because you yourself will be the first to say that a good editing job is important for a job. You just can't be wordy when you're on stage telling a joke. How are you able to self-edit without writing anything down in your phone or on a piece of paper or like a scribble on like the wall of a bathroom? How are you able to do that with all the jokes that you have?
So there's like some of them that are like autopilot at some point, right? Which like.
But do they exist somewhere else? I mean, they may be autopilot now, but they exist on a computer or your phone or a piece of paper somewhere?
No. Matter of fact, like during this time, I was worried, like, because we had such a big break, and for a while I was in like survival mode with the bar and the restaurant, and trying to make sure we're surviving there. And so the whole time in my head, I'm thinking like, when I get back on stage, am I even going to know these jokes? Am I even going to know half of them anymore? Matter of fact, I looked at a YouTube video the other day, and one of them popped up, and I go, holy shit, I forgot all about that.
So do you have a set list even? Do you have like a set list with all your jokes somewhere so you can just like know that you have a catalog of just the title of your jokes?
Yeah, I have a couple of them written down. Like
Okay.
I have like written out, like from time to time I'll do like an inventory check, and I'll write down everything that I've ever done that exists, and and I'll kind of play with them, and I do that from time to time anyway. It's like I'm always like I'll go back and fuck something, because one thing I do hate is like I hate. There's like nothing more fun than having like something new to go up there with.
Yeah.
You're right. It's like that's the high. It's like the high gets old after a while when they're gonna laugh now. You're gonna go here. Okay. It's like having sex and using the same moves every time. Like touch your nipples, kiss your neck. Ta-da! We just had.
And I know you're telling the truth because there are jokes that I remember you doing, because I haven't been around for you doing comedy since day one, but I feel like I've been around you doing comedy since like month 3. And there were so many good bits back in the day that you don't even do anymore. I mean, the car analogy joke was always one of my favorites that you had done, and the Camden Aquarium you barely do anymore. So I guess like what and this routine, because I don't know if you even remember this, but when you I remember you telling me when you started out, you would leave your house and go to like a deserted parking lot and write jokes in the middle of the night. What changed? Why did you stop doing a writing thing? What had happened? I mean, obviously it worked. I'm not faulting you. It's working.
No. So you know what? So in the beginning, I would go sit in my car for like 2 hours and just try to write what came to mind. I always it's like sometimes like you want to force it's like I always wanted to do a bit about my name because my name being Buddy, it's what I kind of grew up with. It's a weird name to have. It's like kind of like, even though I don't, maybe the people like in the audio, I feel it's a goofy name, and it's like makes me kind of like not insecure, but it's like the elephant in the room to me sometimes. So it's like I wanted to write a bit like, hey, my name's Buddy, but also fuck you, you know. So like, how do I figure that out? And originally, I sat down one day and I wrote this bit out for like 2 hours. I just sat there saying my name. What's funny? Blah, blah, blah. And I write everything out, and my ex came home, and I wrote this bit about my name, and I started to tell her, and I get like a sentence out, and I go, as I'm saying it out loud now, I'm like, oh, this is dog shit. 2 hours. 2 hours of dog shit. That's correct. And I got mad, and I go, you know what? Fuck it, never mind. And I just hopped in my car, and I left. I drove around for like another hour, and I just kept thinking in my head, well, what's funny about it? What am I writing down? Like, what's funny to me? Why am I insecure about this? I'm just cruising around, just mumbling about my name. And all of a sudden I go, oh, I got it. It clicked. I got it. This is it. This is the joke.
Yeah.
And I felt like when I was able to get on stage quickly and be able to flow with it quicker. Like, because when I'm talking to myself, instead of writing it out, I'm talking to myself. I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like kind of doing open mic repetitions to a degree. I'm watching this thing evolve inside my head. And then the first time I do it on stage, I hop on and I'm like, okay, I can already see where this thing's working a little bit, where it's not. Like I got a feel for it now.
So you have this innate ability to know what the audience would like without the audience even being there. In your own head, you'll know what they'll laugh at, what they won't laugh at, and you don't actually need them to be in front of you to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, there's always like the surprises where it's like, usually if I'm going to come out with something kind of new, right? Like, we didn't get into the cancer stuff, but like,
we're going to. That's coming up. We're going to talk about that.
But when I, was going through that, I was like, you know what? Well, how do I get this out there without? I mean, obviously, I could sit down, especially when I was going through it, and be like, let me tell you what's going on in my life. But I'm like, well, all right, but that could... It happened when I got a divorce, too. Like, I went up there and I go, I'm just going to try to find the funny pieces of being divorced. And I'd go up and be like, so, divorced, and then people would be... And I'd try to say something that I thought might be funny, and then they didn't laugh, and I go, oh, fuck, this hurts inside still. I feel like a bad dad. Why aren't we together? Why didn't we try to make this work for the kids? I'm a bad person. They're judging me right now. This is all going to shit. So then I'm like, well, let me find the one thing I can stand behind. And I'm like, I know the laugh at this part, which gives me enough credit to maybe fuck around for a minute ahead of it, 2 minutes, to try to find funny before I go, all right, let me drop the hammer. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I know that this part's gonna work.
Okay.
So like, I kind of do like little cheap, like I call them like dumps. Like I have like little spots where it's like, I'm gonna try this out today, and if it works, great. I'll build on, or I'll build in front of it. But at least I get to test it out, and if it doesn't, I can dump, and I know where I'm going with the next spot.
All right. I mean,
So-
that's pretty important to have that kind of ability to recognize the areas that you can quick switch gears and know that the transition will be seamless, and like the audience is still with you. You just bomb, but you can switch gears and they're still on board. I mean that's a pretty good skill to have. With the way that you develop these jokes then and doing it on stage, are you working you don't do open mics anymore, so are you going up and on a show and just working out the joke in real time? I mean, you did your head, but you also, or is your joke already been pretty much figured out at that point? Like it should have almost been written because you're going to say it the way, or will there be developing and stuff like that on stage as well? Will there be a real time presence in your joke?
Usually, yeah. So like usually, like if I like I'm trying to think. All right, so let's say like 2 shows ago, I was doing 25 minutes. So probably 20 minutes of that was material that I stand behind that I know will work, but also I've been doing it and it's like I want to find some more fun, right? So I was like, I'm going to take 5 minutes of stuff that I haven't really worked out yet. I've been working out it in my head a little bit, but it's different when you work it out in your head and like you don't have the outside world involved. Like during quarantine, it's a different headspace. I'm like, I think this will be funny, but I don't really know what funny is right now because I haven't heard many people laugh. But like, so like I had some things, but like I said to myself, like when I was like, all right, I'm going to do this 5 minutes. And it was all a little touchy because I knew, I knew what it was like, where it was capable of taking a crowd maybe, because it was like a lot of, like there was racial tension stuff.
Yeah.
In the bit. So then I did it the night before and I told myself, if my set's going well, I was doing a shorter set. If my set's going well tonight, I'm going to sneak it in there. Like I'm going to give myself a little leeway to play.
It's a big risk. You like that risk.
But I felt like I had the crowd on my side right away. And I go, you know what? I'm going to do it. I kind of asked for permission. I was like, I have a lot of fucked up thoughts from quarantine. Probably won't share all of them because that would probably be a nightmare. But maybe I'll go out there and they're like, do them all. And I go, that would be a nightmare. I just told you that. So then I was like, but, they were on board. Like, yeah, show us. And I was like, you know what? If I throw it out there and it doesn't work, I'll go, that was a fucked up thought from quarantine. You asked for it. That's on you, not on me. So it ended up working that night. So the next night I go, you know what? I'm going to do it again. And, it was a different crowd. It was less diverse. It was all white people. And they seemed like they weren't hating it, but they weren't like, oh, this is funny. I could feel there was uncomfortable tension. And I said to myself, you know what? There was a guy in the show that had taken his shoes off. He was just wearing his socks.
Yeah.
And so I noticed it. And I said to myself as I was doing my other material, save that. And so when I got to the new material, I was like, if this doesn't, I can tell it's not working. I looked right back over that guy and I go, what the fuck? Are those just your socks? Wear your sneaker. How comfortable do you need to be at this show? That's the problem with white people. And like, it tied the joke together, but like everyone started laughing at that, and everyone was back on board. And I go, get the fuck out of this room now. Get on something that I know will bring them totally back, and I'll work on this stuff. Try to figure out where maybe I could make it a little easier. Yeah. But I've been working out another bit about with Julie where this one's not even developed fully yet. But
still, I'd like to hear your process. If you want to go through it, it'd be cool to kind of hear in your head.
Yeah, because I'll just tell you something small with it. Like, so this joke, it's not like fully developed, but I put it on stage a couple times because, and I don't usually do this, but the one thing I thought was really funny, and I posted it on Facebook, and it was a kind of a funny punchline, which is Julie will always play that like, well, what if this, what if I was in a fire? Like it's like women love like that shit, right? It's like, well, what if I was disfigured? Would you still be with it? So I posted on Facebook the one day I thought of Julie was like, what if I was in a wheelchair? And I was like, well, I'd walk upstairs to avoid this conversation. Right? And like, I was like, this is funny.
You actually said that to her? That's something you actually said back to her? It was.
We never even had never had that actual like, what if I was in a wheelchair? But she did some other what if.
Yeah. But this goes back to the fort joke. It's a little. It's something over here, and it blows in the wind, and now it's being created into. It's like you're almost like you're Van Gogh, and you saw some woman who probably ugly as sin, but you turned her into the Mona Lisa because of just making it what you kind of wanted it to be.
Yeah, it was like whatever the true story was on its own probably wouldn't have been that funny.
Yeah.
It was like, I started playing with it in my head, like, why do they, like, why does she always want to do that what if shit? And then so I added to it, like, I built backwards from that, and I was like, well, throw another example in, like, in the beginning of quarantine, so I did this joke a couple times where I said, Julie was in the kitchen, and she was like, what if I was 20 years younger and naked? I was like, I would teach you how to cook. And so we could eat right now. And I said that, and it worked, but also I was like, it comes off like I'm punching down kind of, like, not just on, it looks like I'm punching down on feminism because I'm like, get in the fucking kitchen and cook, lady. Which isn't where it was coming from, because it's like, if people don't know in our world, is Julie doesn't really cook. She does a little bit now. She's in the house somewhere, so if I whisper her, she doesn't really cook. That's not her thing. Like I do more of the cook. But like when we first started dating, like I opened her stove up and it was storage. She put shit in her stove. She never used her stove. Like that's how little she cooked. So like when I came up with I teach you how to cook, it wasn't like, oh, fuck women, fuck feminine. It was more like, because I do the cooking. Like I was just saying like, so I changed it the other night because I was thinking about it. It's like, I don't like how that sit. I feel like it sits like very, like macho, teach you how to cook. So I changed it a little bit the other night, and I just really like zoned in at that moment. I was like, I'm coming up to this joke. I'm going to do this bit. I'm going to change this little, like, pay attention, focus, see how they react to this tiny change. And I changed it to, I was in the kitchen cooking, and Julie walked in and was like, let me ask you something. What if I was 20 years younger right now? And I was like, I would teach you how to cook because I'm fucking tired of doing this every Saturday. And it seemed to like work a lot better.
Yeah. Especially
like,
in the sensitive times that are right now, I think that was the right way to do it.
Yeah, I'm punching down, but more specifically at our relationship, having fun with it in a playful way. And it seemed to like, it seemed to flow better. So like I made like a mental note, like, all right, I like the way that was worded better. But like, we've talked about this before, but like, because I don't really write, like, because I don't sit down and write that way, I don't have that ability where every time I do a bit, it's clean to the T, every word is the same. Like, I don't have that necessarily. Like I have the conversational part where like I'm up there and once I start grooving, I'm kind of flowing, but I'm not like hard. I'm not like a Jill List, Mark Norman, where I'm just hitting bangers and it's all the fat's cut out.
Yeah.
So like where I think that can not get me in trouble, but it's harder for me to like do certain things with my style because of that.
Okay.
Which is why I like really envy. I think it's such a cool style. People that write like have like one-liners. And it's just.
Well, let's go back to something you said at the very beginning of this, where you talked about when you were in the sales job and you need to map out where you're going to be at every point of the day. Otherwise, you would just have no structure and end up doing like going to the mall. That seems to not serve you well in this world. You need to have no bounds and no restrictions and no set schedule. I mean, so let me just make sure I get, there is never you don't have a routine as far as every Monday at 8 o'clock I'm going to write for an hour, or every Wednesday morning I'm going to think about a new joke and work it out in my head over breakfast. You don't have anything like that. It just come and go out of your head throughout the day, anytime.
Yes, but also now no. I should at least commit 30 minutes a day where I sit down and dedicate that time to comedy.
And have you?
Yeah, I've been spending more time.
So what are you doing in that 30 minutes?
Every day.
That's fine. So what are you doing in that 30 minutes then?
So one of the, we've talked about this before too, but because of the way I construct my jokes, they don't always find themselves on the deeper levels, and I want to keep growing. I want to keep getting deeper. I want to keep kind of getting out of these fun stories to some degree, even though I love storytelling, that'll always be, but I want to get into like a little bit of a deeper level, like how do I think about things and how do I feel about the world, like stuff like that, where people, I feel like, because I can tell a story about the fucking old lady did this today, and people are like, that's funny as shit. My old lady did the same thing. And then, there's a relatability there, but when you actually start going up and you're like, I think the world is like this, and someone goes, I think the world's like that too, and you made it funny, like it's way more like attachable.
Yeah.
It's like way more tangible. People want to, they're intrigued now. Whereas like before, they're like, you told a couple funny things up there. They're fucking in and out. You have kids, right? Did you say you had kids? It's like, yeah, it was my whole fucking act. Remember? So, and I think I touched on that a little bit, especially like when I, first had cancer. I went up in the mix of it, and I was like, here's what I'm thinking. Like, I think I started to touch that a little bit then. And I think people were gravitating towards that. And then as I healed, I got a little bit away from that again, back to what I know and how to do it. So like, I'm trying to so what I've been doing is I've been writing down things about the world, like racism, and like I'll just write words down.
On what? On your computer? On that notebook that you had for? Okay.
Yeah, paper. I don't feel like, for whatever reason, like, I don't know. I like the nitty gritty of like.
I do the same thing. All mine's handwritten out. So So I don't know.
I kind of play with it in my head. It's like
So let me get this straight then. So your new way of working out a joke is you want to go. I want to sit down. I want to write this out. But you're still just reverting back to it's all in your head again. The piece of paper is probably mostly blank. It's still, you thrive in this environment.
But I'm writing down more bullet points.
Okay.
Where it's not so much as like, all right, so without writing it down, right? So there will be probably a couple hours throughout the day where I'm just twisting little shit in my head, where, especially on a good day, where I have like a little more like mental freedom, where I'm like, I'll start playing with a bit idea. And I don't really find any puzzle pieces, so then I just go, all right, well, now it's tomorrow, and I put it aside in my head, and it's gone.
Yeah.
Maybe for good. Unless it was something that I felt was so fun to play with that I tried to put the puzzle together a week from now, a month from now, or whatever. So at least writing down a couple of these bullet points is helping me stay like, because I've been told before, like sometimes I go for easy, like it's like
I don't know
I
about
don't
that.
think. Wow, it's like maybe not easy, but it's like I don't maybe I could dig deeper. It's like so like something like this. Like if I'm like, oh, if I don't find the puzzle in 2 hours, what I'm just throwing it away. Like it didn't work. There's a piece missing. I throw out the whole puzzle. Where now I just write down some of these. It's forcing me to come back to it and be like, you didn't do this puzzle. You want to finish this puzzle now? You still haven't done this puzzle. So if I'm going to commit to write something down, I must have saw something in it enough to write it down. So I'm hoping I think my style will always be kind of my style. Which is, writing it out kind of like in my head. And just doing it right.
Well, is this is the reason that your head works, the reason just going and this vast imagination works out, the fact that you can create something out of nothing pretty much, goes back to your childhood. You were a lonely kid. Did you create your own stories at that age? You're in prison.
Yeah.
You don't relate to any of these guys. These guys, are bad guys. You're a fish out of water. Are you imagining? Are you just using your imagination to get through the day? There is all this. I mean, you're just a product of your environment from childhood through your mid-20s.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever put it together that way until we're doing this. Thanks for psychoanalyzing this.
That's my job.
But no, it is true. So like, dude, as a kid, I remember like we'd be in the car and I would look out the window and like imagine like that car's on fire, someone jumping on this, or a SWAT team coming in the Home Depot while we're in there, and I'm like, I would hide up there, jump on this guy, throw a knife at that guy, and like little like crazy and I would spend like hours just in the corner of my house playing with GI Joes, like just like setting up different things, scenarios, and using my imagination. So yeah, it very much ties back into something that I've been attached to my whole life, which is just having an imagination and creativity with that stuff.
Do you still feel lonely today? Do you still feel lonely? I mean, I know you have a fiance, you have kids, but as far as people that know you, do you feel lonely? And is that how you can thrive in this comedy world?
Probably to some degree. I mean, I think I go in and out of it. I think I go in and out of like pieces where I'm like I think that's still like that. I don't know. As much as environment affects your life, right? Like I think there is a degree of who you are as a person that's always kind of part of the core. So to some core, I think I'm always like that lonely boy that's still like kind of in there. It's like, it's like there's times where Julie will be like, dude, why are you being so annoying? And it's like, I want attention. Like, give me attention. Pay attention.
Yeah.
Oh, man, do something.
Yeah.
I think that comes from a place where it's like I still have that like void and loneliness.
Which is crazy because I know you as the guy after shows. You go around and you try to talk to anybody that wants to talk. I mean, most people want to talk to you after a show. That's the persona you have on stage. Your style is conversational, but it's also that guy I want to get a beer with after the show. That guy looks like a cool ass guy. I want to hang out with him. That's your style. So are you acting when you're in these conversations is there a little bit of you like, hey, I'd rather go to my car right now and just hang out by myself, but I want to do well in comedy, so I'm going to want to make these connections. Are you an actor at that point, pretending to be somebody that you wish you could be?
No, and yes, I guess. So all right, so we're going back to sales. So like in sales, like I did a lot of I became like really intrigued with like the psychology behind a sales process and sales and and there was always this. I used to do this Sandler sales training, and one of the things that they used to say about a salesperson is like a salesperson is you're basically a psychologist putting on a Broadway play. Like you're on the outside looking in as a psychologist putting on a Broadway play, because like no matter what's affecting you at the moment, you're in a chess match, and it's a psychological chess match, and you have to be outside of it, and you got to play a certain character depending on the character that your adversary or whatever decides to play. So like it always stuck with me, because like there's always different personalities. So you can't just go in and be like, this is who I am, buy from me. If you want to succeed, you got to go in and be like, well, who are you?
Yeah.
Okay, this is kind of who I am. I found our relatability. So not that I want to do that necessarily with comedy. Like, you get to a point you just want to kick the door down and be like, this is who the fuck I am.
Yeah.
This is why I started doing this. You're going to like me one way or another. But I've always said before, I'm not necessarily that comic. I respect and appreciate. I mean, there's comics out there that I've seen that are true to them. I've used this one quite a bit. Is Mary Radzinski. She stays true to who she is in every show she does, and somehow it gets the crowd, even if they're not on board the first joke. She pulls them on board without changing who she is. Where if I go up and I am like, I'm going to be this, and I go, whoops, I don't think you guys like that. I could also be this, or maybe this, or I can adjust. And I don't necessarily love that part about me, but so that part is kind of like a little bit of an act, right? And like, it's like afterwards, like, not that I'm acting, I have a lot of fun. Like, I love like the interaction. Like, I love like when we all hang out afterwards and we're all bullshitting. Like, that's a good time. I love when, we're having like dialogue with the crowd afterwards. Like, that's fun. But I also know like that's not real. It's like as real as it is. Like, I've told you this before. Like my mentality a lot of times, like even with like David Tell, it's like none of it matters.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. It's like we could have hit it off, and then he gets in his car and he drives away, and this is still life.
Yeah.
It's like I could go have fun with all those people at the show afterwards and high five. At the end of the day, I'm still getting in my car and driving away.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the story. It ended with that night.
Yeah.
Whether it's a good show or a bad show. And like, so with that part of it, it still is a little lonely,
Yeah.
Like that part's still a little lonely, because at the end of the day, like, I'm still going home alone with my thoughts. Not alone, because, I'm blessed. I got Julie and the kids, a dog, a house.
Yeah.
But so it's not like I'm like going in like alone, but it's like, but that whole thing with the whole crowd and all that, at the end of the day, like, I do like when I hop in my car and I'm driving, I put the podcast back on, and I'm just, and I'm thinking about the show, and I get a chance to like look back at it all. So that part is like, I kind of like a little bit of both.
Okay. All right, fair enough. And so, I mean, going back to the fact that you don't write anything down, you're trying to write things down, and you're I guess you're learning. You're kind of learning your own way of writing stuff down. I mean, you eventually you'll get there, I guess. But do you record your acts? I mean, I know with me you don't. It shows that we do. But is that a way for you that you can recall back? Are there tapes?
You know what? This is the big thing, and this is a big thing I have to hold myself to. Is I don't record them. And I regret it almost every time, because I do, sometimes I'm like a little off the cuff, or sometimes with like the little, like I try to stay focused and present in the moment when I'm on stage, where I go, this is going to be different than I did before. Let's see how this works. but and then you get caught into the crowd afterwards, and you're talking for a little, and then you get in the car and you start to rethink it. It gets a little too late to kind of like process it again. So I do need to start recording. I need to just go out. One of the things I've been doing is I went out and bought a smart watch.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And I've been setting up timers on it for like, I want to hit this joke at this time. Like, so I've been trying to like map out to give myself a little more structure on stage. But I also I'm a very structured person in like most of my life, which probably doesn't necessarily, I don't think it comes off that way a lot normally, but like I go nuts still, Julie and I, because Julie's very much a free bird, right?
Yeah.
So like me and her, I'm like, at nighttime before we go to bed, I'm like, we need to talk about tomorrow. I need to know what your agenda is, what my agenda is, and how to sync together. Like, I don't like going into the next day not knowing what I got to get accomplished.
Okay.
So that's my life. But then when I get to comedy, it's like I love
the freedom,
because I do get so butt clenched and like, oh, I need it a certain way. When I get to comedy, it's free. It's fun.
And I kind of want to tell you that you don't need to be writing and stuff like that. If going off the rails is how you have able to make the dent that you have so far in just the 5 short YouTubes, I guess it's nice that you're writing down at least the name of the joke so you can always go back and recall it. But if this world exists where you thrive and maybe just need to tweak a little component of it, then maybe that's all there is for you. And there's probably so many people like that out there that that's the way I think Marc Maron is one of those people that doesn't write anything down. It's kind of all in his head kind of deal. But is there a self-analysis that you do after your set? Or do you just I'm done and I'm just gonna go talk to this guy over here now? What?
No, I obsess over it the minute I clock out, thanks a lot, have a good rest of the night. I start going, this, and this, gotta move this, gotta adjust that. And I'll kind of think about that as it always feels, and the times I have recorded stuff, it still feels good. Because even when you record it, it's still recording it doesn't capture the whole moment, right?
Yeah.
So it's if you can figure out how to adjust something in the moment, it seems to for me it's such a stronger time to do it. So I try to I try to figure it out.
Let's say you're doing a headlining set and minute 9 you go off the reservation and you throw something out there and it hits hard. And you're like, fuck, that was good. And then you do your other 51 minutes and you get off stage and you still recall that thing that happened at minute 9. Do you write that down at all? Like something that was boom, it hits you like a boomerang so well.
No, you know what I'll do? I'll obsess. I will forget 51 minutes of material and I will focus on that obsessively for the whole car ride home.
Okay.
To the point where it's ingrained in my brain, and I go, it's almost second nature for the next time I get back up there.
So there's this other part, and the fact that you haven't even talked about this must make me think that you're not even aware that you do this. Is I have noticed just with stuff that you'll send me that you bounce ideas off. You'll send something to me, you'll send something to Koppel, you may not even say, what do you think of this? You may just send this paragraph out there, and I'll recognize, oh, this is. He's doing something with it. This isn't just something silly he noticed. He's actually trying to do something here. How much do you bounce ideas off of people? Not just Koppel and I don't know if you reach out to other comics like Pat House or whoever, and you're bouncing. But how much does that world exist for your comedy? And how much you're probably one of the biggest social media presence, comedic wise as well. How much do those two channels of input go equal into your set then? The third party feedback and the likes and the sharing of stuff on social media.
I really try not to you and Koppel are probably the only two I really bounce ideas off of. Every once in a while like I've in the past I might have bounced something off like Megan or Jake or someone, but for the most part, I'm like weary of doing that because I feel like if you go up on stage and you feel pretty confident about you ever do a new bit and it works amazing the first time and then the next 3 times it eats shit.
Yeah.
You just had so much energy when you did it. You're like, this one's gonna fucking kill. So I feel like sometimes if I bounce it off of someone, like if I try to do that randomly and I'm like, hey Julie or hey so and so, what do you think about this? And they go, I go, all right, well now it's in my head and what am I gonna do?
I'm the same way. Yeah.
I'm not gonna swing, or I go and do it now and it's in the back of my head that it's probably gonna bomb.
Yeah.
And the minute someone doesn't laugh as hard as I thought they should, I go, fuck.
Yeah.
So you and John, and the reason why I picked you guys is because I feel like you guys have seen me more than anyone else.
Well, and I relate. I don't bounce ideas off. I don't even bounce ideas off of Laura. I mean, I don't know if you do the same thing with Julie, but I'm just afraid that this idea is so good and she doesn't like it, it'll suck it. Just kind of like what you mentioned there. If this is like the best joke that's ever been, I mean, this is Richard Pryor good. And just because one person, like I text back going, because you put it in text and I write back going, I don't know. Did I just suck that? Did I just rob the entire comedy world from a Buddy Harris classic joke at that point? So I don't do that. I don't bounce ideas off anybody. I just go, you hear this, the audience hears it for the first time. It's my role.
Well, but I do like with you and John, because I feel like you guys have seen me the most. So I don't mind doing it with you guys more so because even if you go, I don't know about that one, I say to me almost sometimes it's a fun challenge.
Yeah.
Like when I do it with you guys, whereas if I did it with someone else, it'd be like, we don't have the same bond.
They might just tell you it's good, and even though you might get that.
Well, someone goes, even if I ran something by someone and they go, I don't know about that, and then I do it and it does well, I don't have the same relationship with them as maybe I do with you, where I call you and be like, hey, I said you didn't think so? Fuck off.
All right.
So it's like it almost gives me like a challenge sometimes when you're like, I don't know about that. I go, all right, well, let me see how I can make this good.
Okay.
It's Marc Riccadonna used to play this game, and he did it with John and I before. I think maybe even you one time, but where it was like he'd go, I'm gonna pick a word, try to put it into your set, build something on this. You gotta say like snuffleupagus at some point in your set. Every one of us has to have to. It's like something like that where it's like you give it a little bit of a challenge, and it like feels like you're forced to like, finish the puzzle.
Yeah.
So if I'm like, hey, I think this might be kind of funny, and then you or John go, I don't know about that. Or if you say, yeah, it gives me more confidence because you have seen me enough where I feel like maybe you can see it in like. You ever read like a Mark Norman joke in Mark Norman's voice?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you guys have seen me enough where if I send you something like that, you can kind of hear it in my cadence or my voice or my timing to some degree.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
A little bit better.
Yeah. And so I now want to fast forward a little bit. All right. So you started out comedy. Most of your jokes were self-deprecating, and that's still a theme today. You mostly put yourself as the butt of the joke, in a very clever way. But maybe about halfway through your comedy career, you find out you have cancer. All right. So, and you talked about some of your jokes being sillier, but your cancer material, I feel you underrate. I don't know what it is with you and your cancer material. The feeling I get from it is, why is it so few minutes? And why is he not doing it all the time? I mean, it's so, especially the cancer you had. I mean, you had testicular cancer at 38 years old, which is very young to get cancer to begin with. I mean, and you caught it late. I mean, I remember you. I mean, you had pain down in your groin for a while, and just whatever or you let it go. I mean, that's so. I mean, I don't know if I want to put the same comparison as the car accident, but you kind of cheated death twice. I mean, you waited with the cancer. That could have been real bad. It did get bad.
Yeah.
I mean, they took out half your lymph nodes or whatever, which is I mean, that tells you how far it went. I mean, usually that doesn't happen until it gets too far. They're taking out those. Walk me through the cancer, not you getting cancer, but how the cancer changed your comedy, kind of, because I still feel like if your jokes are like this, the theme of your jokes are like this, cancer, and then it's back down here again. You don't want to. I feel like you feel guilty circling the cancer line because you no longer have cancer, but you're still a cancer survivor, especially with testicular cancer. So what is it? Walk me through how cancer changed your comedy.
Well, so in the beginning, it was like, so when I mean, you were there when I first found out. I've always been like very much like make sure that people around me feel okay. Like even it probably goes back to like with my mom and wanting my dad's approval. Like make sure my immediate group is okay, right? So as soon as I found out I had cancer, I was already trying to find jokes inside of it, which is also like therapeutic to me. Like it helped me a lot to get, to kind of get through this. Like even though it's like knowing when to be serious and when have a little fun with it, and not take it so serious that it's just controlling you. So, like being able to do stand up during that time and jumping on stage 3 days after I had my left testicle removed, like when I'm in that moment, it's like, how can I not talk about it? It's directly affecting my life today in a way that I don't know. Like, I don't know the outcome. I don't know what's going to happen. So I've got to talk about it now because who knows where it's leading or whatever. And it felt good.
I mean, there was a joke that you even did that was they give you a tape about talking to your kids about you maybe dying. I mean, that was a joke. I mean, you go to the Disney World component and all things like that. So I mean, like, so there was a seriousness to the situation. This isn't just there was the. I remember even seeing you. I went to Pat House's album recording and you were opening for it. I remember you standing next to me for probably about a minute until I recognized it was you. Like you took totally different of a human being. I didn't even recognize it was you when you first walked up to me. What'd you say?
I said it's weird when you don't have eyebrows.
well, just the amount of weight you looked gaunt, and you had that weird like yarmulke skull cap on. It was it was just a weird situation. But we talked about these other jokes, and they're all pretty much fabricated off of situations that could happen. I don't want to devalue them because they're really good jokes, and I really love them. But your cancer stuff, for me, is my favorite. The testicle Bluetooth speaker, the conversation with the doctor, is probably my favorite joke you do.
Speaking of the tip, I'll share this with you guys. Last year, I'm fine now, but last year I had testicular cancer, and I lost one testicle from it. And when I did, the doctor tried to sell me a prosthetic testicle. Never heard of that before. I said, why would I get that done? He said, looks. It's like, it's not a boob job. I've never heard a female say, well, the guy was all right, but his nutsack was beautiful. It's the ugliest part of the body. There's no sprucing that up. That would be like putting a plant in an evicted property and be like, ta-da! He goes, well, don't make up your minds yet. Let me paint a scenario Imagine you're at the gym, you get hot and sweaty, so you go to take a shower. I was like, is this still my scenario? Why don't you just shut the door? Because you get out of the shower, you're drying off, someone starts a conversation with you, they realize you only have one testicle, now you wish you got the procedure. I was like, oh, now I wish I never joined this gym. Is this Planet Fitness?
I have to assume this is a real situation at this point, that he is talking to you about a Bluetooth or a fake testicle, and then there could be a Bluetooth capacity to it.
Yeah, but I've still built onto that.
And that's fine, but there's more. That's the most. Well, you say that's the most truthful joke that you do is the cancer stuff.
Yeah. So you wonder why I don't do it all the time, or like I don't do it to a larger amount. It's because there is a lot of truth in there. So sometimes I feel like I have to work very hard on that. I got handed a give me. It was like, God was like, here's cancer. We're taking a testicle. Have fun with it. It's like a little bit of a ball of fun that I got since like fell in my lap, and I'm like, oh, this is all coming very easy. Like, you know, I mean, when I was going through it, I was doing, you know, like the one show we did together, I did like 30, almost 40 minutes, almost all about cancer.
Yeah.
And it was great and it was therapeutic, but also it felt like I was just kind of handed this material, like it was almost someone else's.
So this goes. Okay. So now, okay. So this is you again with the guilt. You felt guilty the first time because you survived the car accident that your cousin did it. You now feel guilty again because you survived cancer when other people haven't. But you still don't give yourself permission to enjoy that you survived. What will it take for you to get over and be like, hey, how much more life-threatening situations do you need to be involved in until you can have fun with the fact that you survived these horrible things in your life and came out better from it?
Yeah, well, you know what? It's that's one of the ones that's obviously I'm grateful I survived.
Yeah.
But it's weird. It feels like such a timely joke. It's like almost like with, not that I would want to like never do that material anymore, or not that I wouldn't want to be. I mean, one of the most precious things that I got out of that was I did a benefit show for cancer survivors in 2018, and it was amazing. They wanted me to come back the next year as the headliner. So they asked me like a month after this show, they said, in 2019, will you come back and be the headliner? And I was like, I'd love to. It was a fun time. Thank you. A month after that is when I found out I had cancer. So then I went through the whole circle of the cancer and the material and this and that. And then I get to that show and I bring my daughters. They get to watch me headline a show and see me do stand-up.
First time?
Live.
First time?
Yeah. Julie sat back there with them as like a proud fiance, proud kids, whether they really gave a shit or not, I don't know, but they seemed to get it. They liked it. But even more so than that, like, I watched all these people that went through, like they shared some of their stories before the show. And as I'm watching it, I was bawling, I was crying, because I'm thinking like, just a year ago, I was at this show healthy. And in between that time, I went through and felt a piece of what they felt or are feeling, and then came out on the other end already. And now here I am headlining this show, and I get to talk about it with people that really understand. And it's just like a magical moment.
Did you record that show? Did you record it? That's great, Taj. Here he was. I mean, you even recognize this as an important show because you brought your kids for the first time, and you still don't. You could have a Tig Notaro moment there, and you chose not to. I hope you're right.
Now. I didn't need to fucking ruin it by watching it later and be like, why did I wear that?
Well, let's deconstruct the joke, and this is part of that clip too. I'm going to put on there the testicle, the fake, the conversation about having a fake testicle. You said the conversation happened with the doctor. How do you get from this real life conversation where they're talking to you about the future of your life to like recognizing that this is a joke and that what are you doing with it? Like there's two things going on. There's serious shit with the cancer, and then there's Buddy being Buddy and trying to see where he can get a joke out of this. How are you doing these? And talk to me about that.
I mean, instantly. Whether it's a defense mechanism that I kept from when I was a kid and being bullied or whatever, I always try to find humor as quickly as possible for things. So when I sat in with the doctor, he's going over everything, like how like it just was like steamrolled. He goes from, I sit in with this doctor, it's Monday. He goes, listen, here's what we need to do. We're going to take out that testicle Wednesday. I was like, this Wednesday? I'm like, we're supposed to go on vacation this weekend. It's like, can we wait till next Wednesday? And he goes, no, it's going to happen Wednesday. I'm like, wow, this is happening way too fast. And so, like, he's throwing all this shit at me. My kids are out in the waiting area. And then he just brings up so do you think you'll be wanting to get a fake testicle? And I'm like, what? Is that fucking happening? Is that even a concern at this moment? I don't even know if I'm going to live through this. I'm assuming I will, but do I need a fake ball? And it was just like, as soon as he said it to me, I was like chuckling inside, thinking like, is this the concern for some people? And I was just thinking, like, well, why would that be a concern? It's the fucking ugliest part of the body. And he's still talking to me, and I'm already like kind of bidding this out in my head, not even on purpose, just because like I'm so stressed out, and finally I feel not alone. I feel comforted inside of this humor of the whole thing. And so, I bid on to it a little bit where I said a couple things. Like, I probably said, like, that it's the ugliest part of the body. And then he kind of gave me a piece of that gym scenario. Like, well,
I like that. I like that part. Is this your scenario or my scenario?
Yeah, and he didn't word it that way. I changed it to make it sound better. He said, I go, why do a lot of guys get it done? I don't get it. Why, like, what's the point of that? That's like something that, like, I do think there's like, that's a cynical comedian type of take, right? Like, well, why? Why would I do that? What's the point of that? It's like very like Seinfeld, like that's just a cynical comedian.
Yeah.
That part is like, I guess I can give myself credit, but he came back with the whole like, well, a lot of men want to get it because like if they're in a locker room and there's a couple guys around, they don't want to look out of place. And I'm like, it's a fucking testicle. Like, someone would have to be looking very closely. And I'm like, well, what kind of locker room is that? So that's where I started to build that bit. It was like, I was like kind of drawing it out. But I probably had that bit pretty much written out before I even left that day.
And then on top of that, you're sitting in chemo by yourself for hours a day. I mean, is it just constantly rattling in your head too? Like you just obsessing? No. Oh, okay. No,
I mean, when I was doing the chemo, like, it was like I had a game plan going into it where I was like, you know what? I'm going to be sick at night. But I also I have a, girlfriend at the time, but I have a girlfriend and I got kids. I need to be as present as possible. This thing's going to beat me down. So I would tell Julie, I didn't want anyone to hang out with me during chemo. I would go down there and just sleep while I got it done every day.
Okay.
And that would be sleep time, and then I would stay up at night. And, because Julie was working at the bar at the time. And so, I would try to stay up and see the kids a little bit when I could, and I wasn't too down, or I would stop in or wait up for Julie to come home from work, and then I would sleep during the day while I was getting it done. I felt like it was a pretty decent use of my time.
What is the end goal with you, with all this material? And you and I had this conversation, and to the point where you're almost adamant that you'll never do an album. I think you would. I think the one conversation you had, you would drink bleach before you would put out stuff on an album. Are you still anti-album, and that everything that you'll just have this Rolodex of jokes that you'll just have for your whole life with no physical output? Is that still your mindset, or what's the end goal here for you?
I don't know, because I'm getting to a point now where there are definitely some things coming out of COVID and quarantine. It's jumping back up on stage. As much as I have a feeling towards some of my old bits, I also am I'm still doing this? That part is there almost wants to be a part of me to put some of them to rest at some point. So, I do I like the idea of cataloging, putting it out there, doing something with it. But for me right now, I still think I'm in an infancy phase of all this. If I look back at me, let's say pre-COVID, if I look at me then versus 6 months before that, I'm yeah, I've grown. I'm better at this now than I was 6 months ago. I'm better at it. I have a clip of when I did my first feature spot doing 10 minutes at the Grape Room, where it is hard to watch. And I just messing around the other day, I was pulling up some clips on YouTube, and there's one from 2017 for Philly's Funniest that I don't think the public can see, but it's still mine on there. Mm-hmm. And so I pulled that up. I couldn't watch it. It's unwatchable. So bad. So, I just feel I'm still at this, phase where I'm still growing at, a pretty decent rate, where, I'm not ready to, I still think there's some of the stuff has, I wouldn't mind doing something with some of it at some point, but I still think there's a lot more room for me to grow, and a lot of the material that I'm proud of, I still think there's room for that to grow with me.
Okay.
Whether it's my performance, if I go back and I critique my 2017, I'm man, I was so butt clenched on stage. I wasn't loose, I wasn't flowing, and because of that, a couple of the jokes got kind of pulled back a little bit. So, if I can look at myself like that now to then, I wonder how I'm going to look at myself in a year to now.
I get that. Yeah. I get that. That makes sense. I don't disagree with any of that. And you're right. I can tell within the last maybe even 2 years, you look like you're having a ton of fun up there. I mean, it's almost like we're going back in time, and you're in your uncle's house you're your uncle's now telling the jokes.
Yeah.
And everybody, and there's this casualness, and there's this looseness, and you poke fun at things, and you do this job almost like a miracle where you can just keep this line between getting too mean and keeping it light, as you just tightrope it all the way through, and it's fantastic. I am not so I'm not gonna sit here and say what I disagree. I mean, it makes sense. All right, man. That is it. I'm going to ask you: is there anything you want to plug before we sign off here? Anything you want me to link to this podcast, or what you want to call this? It's not a podcast, I guess, but anything you want me to link to this web series? I know you have a website. I know your Facebook page is maxed out with friends. I think you have Twitter. I think that might be the only avenue you have. That can be fun.
I wish I'd used that more, actually. No. Find me out at shows. Thanks.
So that's it. That's our final episode. I want to thank Buddy for sitting down, opening up, being vulnerable, being honest, being straightforward, owning everything. This is everything I could ask for being an interviewer was what Buddy delivered. He always delivers, no matter if it's on the stage or off the stage. I just want to thank Buddy again for a great final interview for season 1. We're not done yet. We'll be back with season 2 in April next year, but till then, we'll be coming out with new content Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So every Monday, you get a bonus clip, something from one of the interviews that didn't make it into the full interview. You'll get to see that on Monday. Wednesday will be a compilation style video. This will be a question that I asked all the comics, and you'll get a different answer across the board from all the comics from our season 1 interviewers. And Friday will be Flashback Friday. I'll key in on a certain component from one of the interviews that I thought was meaningful, or a great tip, or something interesting that somebody said, and it'll be a very condensed, shortened version of that on our Flashback Friday. So you'll get new content 3 days a week going forward. We'll see you back for season 2 in April. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to this channel. Please share it, like it, do whatever I need. This is all I need. This is all I can ask for. So thanks again for being loyal viewers, and I'll see you next time. Take care.